Good morning, everybody. I see that there are a lot of people attending this meeting, and I hope a good number of early career people. I know there will be early career talks. And so for those of you who maybe are attending your first SBAG meeting or first SBAG meeting in a while, I'll just explain that even though SBAG is not formally part of NASA's advisory structure, we do like to have an active conversation with all of the AGs. And so this process of findings and responses is the most formalized version of how we have that conversation. The executive or steering committee, with the input from the entire AG, issues findings at every meeting, and NASA does its best to respond. And so this is the presentation of the findings from the last meeting, which you may or may not be aware of, and the responses. Okay, I apologize for all of the text-heavy slides, but the findings themselves were text-heavy and the responses are wordy also. So please bear with me. I will just walk everybody through these findings and responses one by one. First one, the finding was, SBAG urges NASA to include Ceres as an ocean world when considering missions to that category of solar system bodies, including the upcoming New Frontiers round if applicable. The wealth of data returned from the Dawn mission and ongoing astronomical studies demonstrate that Ceres is either a relic ocean worlds or a current one. Ceres is the most accessible ocean world, and missions to Ceres can achieve many of the objectives of interest to the astrobiology community. Ceres is regarded in NASA's roadmap to ocean worlds to be a stepping stone to more distant objects of interest. If ocean worlds are to be considered valid targets for the upcoming New Frontiers round, we urge NASA to include Ceres. Recent NASA-funded mission studies show that mature concepts for Ceres missions exist. The response, the roadmap to ocean worlds produced by OPAG did identify Ceres as a candidate ocean world and recommended that mission studies be undertaken and considered for recommendation to NASA as part of the current decadal survey. NASA's Planetary Science Division supported a Ceres mission concept study under the PMCS program, and the resulting reports have been made available to the Decadal Committee and the public. The National Academies, at PSD's request, conducted a short study and issued a report on options for the fifth New Frontiers announcement of opportunity. In the report, CAPS concluded that ocean worlds remains a compelling mission themes for New Frontiers. However, in this study, CAPS did not consider other possible ocean world targets aside from Enceladus and Titan because, quote, this would require a decadal level assessment, close quote. The Decadal Survey, CAPS wrote, quote, will comprehensively evaluate the merits of ocean worlds exploration endeavors at different bodies and for a variety of mission classes, close quote. NASA will eagerly receive the recommendations of the Decadal Survey when its final report is published. In the meantime, the second community announcement, advance notice regarding New Frontiers 5 announcement of opportunity, invites public comment on mission themes and other aspects, and the public comment period is still open now and is open until February 19th. Next finding. SBAG encourages NASA to develop a process that would permit US scientists to participate in missions led by non-US space exploration agencies, including during the early stages of these missions. In developing such a process, the procedure could be modeled after the existing Astrophysics Apex program. Once a protocol is established that enables the lead agency to approach NASA, such involvement would allow US scientists to be actively involved in and funded to participate in international missions, thereby increasing the scientific return from such non-US led missions. These activities would also provide the additional benefits of increasing US coordination and participation on international missions and would leverage additional mission opportunities that are not actively under consideration by NASA. Before I go on, let me just verify that I'm still being heard because I can't see anything except my own slides.
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, great, thank you. The response to that finding, NASA PSD's intent is to support participating scientist programs whenever possible and appropriate, subject to the availability of resources. Discussion of how best to conceive and manage PSPs has been ongoing in PSD. Beyond the fundamental goal of broadening mission science return, PSPs are perceived to serve two distinct ends. First, mainly but not exclusively for national missions, opening opportunities to join mission teams to people, including early career scientists, who may not have had the opportunity to join at the mission's inception, but whose contributions could be substantial. And second, particularly for non-US missions, facilitating early and continuing participation by US scientists through mission development and operations. Balancing these goals for international missions is situational and depends on the intent and the initiative of the lead space agency. It is relatively rare that the lead agency approaches NASA before scientist-to-scientist collaborations have begun. Anticipating the needs of other agencies and the US planetary science community with regard to international missions and development is challenging. The Astrophysics Explorer US Participating Investigator Program has tried to address the challenge. However, this program has received few proposals and has made no selections, indicating that a clear solution has not yet been found. Next finding. SBAG is concerned that the current global pandemic is producing unprecedented obstacles to community participation, and that these obstacles may be particularly onerous for underrepresented portions of our community. The community appreciates the extension on the due dates for the white papers, but SBAG strongly encourages NASA to continue to work with the national academies to pursue strategies to ensure diverse community participation, including but not limited to developing alternative avenues to provide input, giving additional attention to the diversity of the panels, and/or encouraging more input at later stages of the process. The response: NASA encourages broad participation by the planetary science community in the decadal survey, but the makeup of the decadal committees and the conduct of the survey itself are NASM's, the National Academy's, prerogative and not directed by the agency. NASA PSD did work with the academies to expand the timeline for submission of white papers, resulting in a distribution of submission deadlines by topic. The survey needs to hold to its original basic timeline, however, because of the need for the final report to be available to inform the FY24 budget request. Next finding. I'm assuming everyone can still hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, next finding. The SBAG community reaffirms its awareness of the unique observational capabilities supplied by planetary radar and urges NASA to apply continued effort toward achieving at least one operational planetary radar facility at all times, and particularly at scheduled high-priority observation events. As part of the Planetary Defense Coordination Office's Near-Earth Object Surveillance Strategy, planetary radars play a decisive role in both identifying and excluding Earth impact threats, often in a much more timely manner than would otherwise be possible. Hence, planetary radars must be available at all times to fulfill their planetary defense mission. Between planned and unplanned maintenance, natural disasters, and the recent COVID-19 pandemic, there have been multiple instances in which no planetary radar assets were available to conduct observations for planetary defense and planetary science objectives. In addition to producing an ongoing compromised planetary defense posture, future radar outages coincident with the double asteroid redirection test NEO deflection demonstration in October 22, or during reconnaissance of the Janus mission target 1996 FG3 in April-May 22, could significantly reduce returns from these missions. Actions to ensure greater planetary radar resilience include, but are not limited to, maintaining a robust stockpile of critical parts and equipment, developing adequate contingency plans, and commissioning a third radar facility such as that planned for Canberra. The response to that finding, as Laurie already said, the collapse of the Arecibo 305-meter telescope was a tragic end for a facility that adeptly served and enabled breakthroughs in multiple areas of atmospheric science, planetary science, and astrophysics for many decades. NASA will continue to utilize the 70-meter Goldstone Solar System Radar Facility in California to characterize known NEOs and other targets. The Goldstone facility has greater pointing capability, but less range than had been possible with Arecibo's planetary radar, and some scientific research on planets and distant asteroids will be impacted. The Goldstone facility returned to full operations in November 2020 after successful delivery and testing of a new klystron tube for its high-power transmitter. In the short term, NASA is considering ways to enhance resilience at Goldstone. However, this opens the opportunity to think more broadly about what is required for a future planetary radar capability, and NASA welcomes the decadal survey process and other avenues for discussion with for discussions with other key government stakeholders in looking ahead to possible next generation planetary radars. And I'll just add that this is on the agenda for later in this meeting, so I know we'll hear more on the topic. Okay, in the home stretch to the final finding, which is a mouthful. As discussed at the most recent planetary meeting of the PAC, the SBAG and League communities have grave concerns about aspects of the most recent discovery selection process. The discovery selection statement appeared to rule out both small body and lunar missions as selectable due to considerations of programmatic balance. These considerations should have been known to NASA prior to the release of the Discovery 2019 AO. In addition, the FAQ document, which was promised to the planetary science community at public meetings several months ago, has not been released. There's concern among both communities that significant time, effort, and resources were wasted to produce high-quality discovery mission concepts, some of which received Category 1 designations, that never would have been selected regardless of scientific merit, based on the programmatic balance rationale given in the discovery selection statement. SBAG requests that in the future, if programmatic balance is to be a criterion by which the missions are selected, NASA clarify prior to the program call which destinations would be acceptable for consideration within the discovery program. However, SBAG's view is that future discovery program calls should be open to all destinations and that each destination be considered on its own individual merit. This is especially important with respect to small body destinations, given the extreme diversity of these objects that span, pardon me, that span the entire breadth of the solar system. For time, I'm going to skip reading the next paragraph, which is from League. SBAG and League jointly support compelling science be a prime driver for future discovery mission opportunities and selections. Furthermore, SBAG and League jointly request that the FAQ document outlining the process and details behind the discovery mission selection be provided to the planetary science community at the earliest opportunity. And the response to this finding is on the last slide. NASA PSD understands that there is a perception in the community that small body missions which were selectable in this discovery competition may not have been selected, partly because of programmatic balance considerations that could have been articulated in advance or that were extraneous to SND. Language in the discovery selection decision document explaining the non-selections, which may have contributed to this perception, was terse and unfortunately did not fully capture the complexity of the decision process. Choosing from the pool of outstanding proposals was challenging. Each selectable mission concept was fully considered based on the published evaluation and selection processes, the published evaluation and selection processes, which included programmatic factors. As Dr. Larry Glaze explained at the March 2020 PAC meeting, there were small body and lunar mission proposals that were highly rated. These proposals were not ruled out at any point in the process prior to the final selection meetings. The point is well taken that any programmatic factors that could affect selection should be fully clarified and explained at the start of the process, as is done for New Frontiers. PSD will continue to incorporate this into its planning for future AOs. This being said, the stunning successes of recent and current small body missions and the anticipated successes of those in development suggest that it is time to assess what key science questions have been answered, which still remain, and what new questions have been raised by these missions in order to refine, and sharpen justifications for future missions. Dr. Glaze discussed these issues with the Decadal Survey Small Bodies panel at its open session on November 13th. So that is the end of the findings and responses. And
Okay, thanks so much, Tom. We do have time. We have to keep on schedule. We have about 5 minutes for questions or comments. We do have, an open mic session later, but let's take any questions that arise until 9 o'clock when Kurt is on.
Paul Abel asks, will there be an FAQ response?
So there was discussion of an FAQ. I think this happened about 2 meetings ago, two SBAG meetings ago, and where this issue first came up, and there was discussion And there was a period of time when there was a plan to produce an FAQ document. Subsequently, there was a decision made not to produce that document, I believe because it would have complicated things further or not provided information that would actually be helpful to the community. If Lori is still on, perhaps Lori can add some more to that story.
Sorry, Tom. Yes, I'm here. I was muted. So I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
You bet. The question was about the FAQ that would have explained more details behind the discovery selections. And what I said was there was a plan for a time to produce an FAQ, but subsequently there was a decision made not to do that because the information, in my understanding, would not have been particularly helpful. But maybe you have more that you can say about that.
And I really think that your description as part of the finding response is that's what we have, right? The key piece of information is there. The programmatic factors that perhaps came into play or would come into play into any decision-making process are not laid out at the front end. And I know that perhaps there was a sense from some in the community that maybe there was a reluctance from the very beginning or something to select particular missions or particular kinds of destinations. But that is simply not the case. And as Tom indicated, all of the missions that were the highest rated proposals in that round of discovery were in the discussion. They were all talked about in a lot of different combinations of ways. And so I don't know, as far as an FAQ, what additional information would particularly add to that explanation.